evening, everyone. This evening, I really want to talk about how we continue to wait for other people to simply label us as being great. Like our only physical or mental prowess comes inside of athletics or entertainment or something that we are essentially trying to entertain other people. But we have a vast history of being great. And first and foremost, because I have to somewhat make this political, family, and I know a lot of times people don't like to dive into the empowerment of a people with politics, but this is the ceiling, this is the political cap that this dominant society put on our people, and we first must recognize it and learn how to use it at our own will, right? We have to, in some references, we have to counteract that same energy. But I must remind you guys of those people who essentially use our culture, who can kind of blend in. Then we find out that they're not foundational to America. They're not truly Black Americans, that their lineage is from other countries. Someone that I would like to say on the terms of like Kamala Harris. And for you guys who don't recall what she said prior to her becoming VP of the United States of America with her friend and co-host Joe Biden, let me remind you this small interview, this small segment of the interview that was very pertinent to your vote. And we went along as a people, 85% of us, and voted them in.
Do you support reparations for Black people?
Well, listen, again, we had...
Now, first and foremost, family, I'm going to go ahead and let this play out in its entirety. But anytime someone asks you a point blank question and you start off with, well, you already know the trick bag is coming. You already know that trick language is what she's about to speak. Okay. And let's just keep things clear. And I know people were really trying to defend Kamala Harris, but you now see after 2 going on 3 years in the presidency, her and Joe Biden has done nothing specifically for Black Americans who are native to this land. Foundational Black Americans, okay? So that's the one thing we must look at, we must review, we must go over, and we must understand. Now, from this moment on, you know Kamala Harris' mother is Indian and her father is Jamaican. And now let's hear what this lady has to say when she asks her, do you support reparations for Black Americans?
Over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination and segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000.
Where is the LIFT Act now, family? Someone please tell me in the chat, where is the LIFT Act? Because essentially, if your economic power base, Black Americans are on the lower echelon, on the lower level of the economic playing field in America, and you lift everybody up, Kamala, that means everybody's going to still be on top of Black Americans. We have been the most aggrieved group in the entire nation. We was used as America's free workforce in order for them to obtain trillions and trillions of dollars to be the most powerful country in the world today.
Dollars or less as a family, a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of Black families.
Hashtag reparations.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant.
Along with everyone else.
So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that.
So what basically she was telling you, family, is that is a big fat no. That any policies that benefit Black Americans will benefit the rest of society, meaning each and every group. Now, they'll tell you that they won't specifically do anything for Black Americans, but of course, the amount of legislation that we went over on this channel, the amount of laws and acts that have been passed that benefit specific groups. But for some reason, that's not how they see it. And she's supposed to be celebrating Kwanzaa. When does an Indian/Jamaican person celebrate Kwanzaa? Yeah, I know. Good question.
Let's really be clear about that.
Listen
So I'm
up.
not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, because
Wow. She just told you to your face she's not going to do anything that simply benefits Black people. But when her and Joe Biden got into office, Senate passes largest investment in Native programs in history, more than $31 billion heading to who? Native communities. And we've been over this in its totality, and we broke down all the money that's going to their neighborhoods, to their people for all different reasons. Healthcare facility construction, clinical health, mental health and behavioral. $420 for mental and behavioral health, okay? $140 million for improving health IT and telehealth access. On and on and on, family. You see money going to other groups except who? The people who built this country. We are descendants of a great people, and we have to be great ourselves. We have no option but to be great. Even under a system of oppression, even under a system of white supremacy, we have no option but to be great. Now, your commander in lies. I mean, your commander in chief. I mean, your commander in lies, Joe Biden. He stated that the African-American community had his back and he's going to have us too. And for centuries, we've been demanding reparations for the work our ancestors put in to make this country for what it is today, where everybody wants to come to America for opportunities and jobs and a better way of living. Everybody comes to America. And they feed off the work. They feed off the industry. They feed off the infrastructure of this country that our family has built. Even when I was talking to you guys the other day about the other Black Wall Streets, how we had our own water filtration system, how you think this country got built? You think that a white man gave a slave a blueprint? No, we already knew how to construct things. But bringing this to present day, family, what we have to look at is this. We continue to be lied to by the Democrats and the Republicans. See, the Republicans kind of just shut the door in your face, and the Democrats will let you come in, but you can't eat. You can come in and watch us eat, but you can't eat. So it's hard discrimination, racism, and prejudice, and it's soft. The soft one is, hey, I want you to take me to the finish line, but the only thing they let you do is get into the car, and before they even get started, they kick you out. The Republicans, they just don't let you in. But I'm going to let you reflect on what he said a couple of years ago as he was taking the acceptance speech of being the next United States president. Let's just hear what he has to say about a particular community. And then I want you to reference that in correlation of what he has done for that group today.
Asian, Native American. I mean it, especially those moments, and especially those moments when this campaign was at its lowest ebb. The African-American community stood up again for me. You've always had my back, and I'll have yours.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. So he just said we had his back by voting him into president because he wouldn't have been president without the Black vote, and he will have our back as well. Family, I don't know anyone who knows I need something and they tell me I have my back because I did something for them. I helped them to be elected and selected for the highest office in the land of the most powerful country in the world. And he has done nothing for our community, but he's done things for other people, like signing the anti-Asian hate crime bill. That was for a specific group, was it not? But then you have his co-host, his VP, stating that they're going to do nothing specifically for Black people. Now we go over to some evidence of him continuing to give aid, or as I would like to say, money to Ukraine. Now, when we boil this down, family, we're looking at to date $68 billion. And they're scheduled to give them, once they take office, as you see, $37.7 billion, but roughly rounded up to around $40 billion. But they're yet to give descendants of American slaves, foundational Black Americans, reparations. Native Americans continue to this day, they get reparations. Now, and again, I've said this before because this is very significant in arguments when you're talking to other people, is that, well, why would my tax dollars go to you and you was never a slave? I said, why does your tax dollars go to Native Americans and they're just the descendants of the land that you guys took? If you're so against reparations, why don't you protest against Native Americans who live on free land, don't pay taxes, but we are funding that with federal tax dollars? Where's your smoke at for them? That's how you shut up the crowd, because they don't know what to say in defense of that. Oh, well, I don't support that either. I don't see you protesting. I don't see you speaking out against that. And I'm not hating on the Native Americans. They should get their money, but we should get ours too, because every group that has been agreed by the American government get theirs. We always talk about the Japanese who was in those internment camps who received at the time, which was a lot of money, $20,000 each. Everybody gets reparations from this country except the ones and the descendants that build it, okay? Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this plan that was kind of this, it was a trick in order to get the Black vote, and it didn't pan out, family. This has never occurred, which is supposedly to lift the middle class. And I spoke about this early in the video, that if you lift the middle class and Black people are already at the bottom, then what do you think is going to occur? We're still going to be at the bottom. There's not going to be any reducement in the racial wealth gap. None, zero, zilch, okay? Then we have USAID.gov, a federal government website that shows you some of the budget justification of money that's going from around the world. And here's just some small figures. You see 60 billion, you see 30 billion, you see 1.7 billion, and then they kind of highlight where all this money goes around the world. Now, when you go to Black cities or you go to major cities with a high concentration of Black people, what do you normally see downtown? You see, unfortunately, those people without homes. As we would like to think, the less fortunate. But those societies, whether it be local government, state government, or federal government, would have you to believe that all these Black people are homeless, so happen to be drug addicts, and this, that, and the other. No, there's a lot of things that occur prior to our time or right in front of our face that landed these unfortunate Black folk on the street. Now, granted, if there's some that probably got strung out on drugs and this, that, and the other, I'm pretty sure there was, but I'm pretty sure a large population of them probably wasn't addicted to any paraphernalia, landed on the street, and then got into those addictions, right? Because if you're homeless, look, you're trying to escape your situation any way that you can, whether it be physically or mentally, using those psychedelic drugs to take you to another place, right? And this all stems from the wealth that they've stolen from the Black American community by not allowing us to get fair lending, by destroying the Black banks. See, we had Black banks, but they destroyed them because they knew in order for you to build in this country, in order for you to have your own in this country, you need a bank to go to in order to essentially erect that building and make that business continue to grow. But they take that away from us. Even to this day, there's discrimination in banking when it comes to Black Americans, regardless of your credit score, have you. But there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it kind of starts off with California because they built the reparations task force. Now they're starting to trace people roots back to their lineage, because this is going to be based on Black American lineage, right? Your people are foundational. You probably came here in the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, but they can trace it back to the 1790 census record or do a DNA tracing. But nonetheless, they're on the verge of paying Black residents $223,000 in reparations. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. But let me just point out some things that I believe that will motivate you and incite you, because for some reason, the narrative, the stereotypes that Black people are not as smart as white people, because there is a study that their hairs are larger, so they have larger brains. But I always ask people this: who created the IQ test? Not black people, not African people. Europeans created the IQ test, then had another people who has not been trained in their literature to take the IQ test, asking them complex languages within their society. How would I know those things if I don't study those things? Right? Because they believe that the colonization of melanated people from around the world, that they indoctrinated you within their educational system, and these are the things that you should know. So when you take this test, you should know these things. Not necessarily so. We work different. We think different. We respond different. But here's some of the greatness, and I'm not going to go too in depth because I know you guys know these people like the Madam C.J. Walker. There was a woman before her who actually got Madam C.J. Walker. Garrett Morgan, you know, the guy who made the third light, made you slow down, because in England, when they first created the first stoplight, it was only a green light and a red light. And it wasn't even electricity, by the way. This brother made an electric light, okay, that we know that changed. Granville T. Woods, very important to American society. A lot of people don't know about his work. It states here that Granville T. Woods, born to a free Americans, held various engineering and industrial jobs before establishing a company to develop electrical apparatus known as Black Edison, okay? No. He don't need to be a Black Edison. He is already great by himself. That's Mr. Granville T. Woods, okay? Let me go back here, family. And we're not going to go too in depth because I know you guys know this people. What about Percy Julian? Okay. Percy Julian was a chemist who was not allowed to attend high school, but went on to earn his PhD. So in spite of suppression and oppression and him not allowing to do something, he still became a chemist. He still got his PhD, unfortunately, from, you know, the institution of white supremacy, even though he probably went to an HBCU that was kind of established by white people in the first place. But nonetheless, the brother fought through the oppression to still get his accolades. But what are some of achievements of medical? His research at academic corporate institutions led to chemical synthesis of drugs to treat glaucoma and arthritis. And although his race presented challenges at every turn, because he was black, he is regarded as one of the most influential chemists in American history. Okay, in American history, you guys know about Elijah McCoy, the term the real McCoy. He was making all sorts of apparatuses and gadgets for the train industry at the time. You got James West. I don't need to go over George Washington Carver. Everybody know about the peanut guy, but he also created soy, and he also created plastic. A lot of people don't even know that George Washington Carver actually created plastic from soybean. I digress. Lonnie Johnson, very intelligent brother. Guess what Lonnie Johnson invented, ladies and gentlemen? He invented the Nerf gun. He invented the Super Soaker, okay? And if you go on to read his story, he worked for NASA, by the way, the U.S. Air Force, and he went to Tuskegee University, okay? Now, I didn't want to get too deep into Lonnie Johnson, but his inventions, as you can tell right here, family. He said that he becoming an important member of the government science establishment. He was assigned to the Strategic Air Command, where he helped develop the stealth bomber. Johnson moved on to NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory in '79, and it goes on and on. But again, like I said before, one of the most things you guys probably related to is that the brother created the Super Soaker, but a lot of people didn't know that as well. Okay, you got George Carruthers, you got Patricia Bath. Everyone knows about Lewis Howard Latimer. Now, I want to point out very quickly Mark Dean, because this brother's still alive, very intelligent, bright brother, but he used to work for IBM back in the day. Let me show you what he essentially created here, right? Computer scientist Mark Dean, engineer, helped develop a number of landmark technologies for IBM. See, unfortunately, he made these inventions while he was at IBM, just like we kind of did back in the day, and they took our patents. But he probably did it under the veil, under the contract of IBM, but I digress. While he was at IBM, ladies and gentlemen, they said a number of landmark technologies for IBM, including the color PC monitor. Now I want you to think about the computer that you're watching me and hearing me from. Now I want you to think about the cell phone that everybody carries around. In order to get where we are now, you had to have brothers like Mark Dean to create the first PC monitor. And guess what else? In every one of your phones, and every one of your computers, and every one of your television or anything electronic is a gigahertz chip or a microchip or what people in the industry know as a semiconductor, okay? He holds 3 of the company's original 9 patents. He's also invented the industrial standard architect system bus with engineer Dennis Moeller, allowing for computer plugins such as the disk drive and printers. But family, as I told you, the list goes on and on and on of the greatness of our people. And regardless of this political oppression system by the way of the dominant societies and those white supremacists that continue to make black people the ground that they walk on and stump, to not allow us to achieve greatness by one, the suppression and oppression of our people, whether it be in the workforce or stereotypes or economic deprivation, by now allowing us the same freedoms. Even though we have the same credit scores, we got the same amount of money in the bank as collateral and assets, we can't even get equal loans in some places, that we're still being discriminated upon. I know you guys heard a story about real estate where there was a mixed couple. I think it was a white guy and a black woman. They were married, and when they had pictures up in their home, trying to sell their home, the home was appraised at a lower amount which they anticipated. So someone told them, hey, change out all your pictures and just put up, you know, either very decorative pictures or pictures of white people. And so the husband put up family pictures of him and his family members, and there was no sign of black art or black pictures. Why did, when they got re-evaluated, reappraised, that the property appraised for $300,000 to $400,000 more? And they did an investigation. They stated that the guy who was doing the appraisal was being very racist, being prejudiced in his reporting because of that. See, family, there's so many section of the society that we are simply oppressed in. So when you see reparations movement and you know that it's true, you should be jumping on those things. And if you don't have anything positive to say about reparations, I always tell people to shut up. That way, if the money comes, you get the money. If not, you're not kicking yourself in the mouth. But anyway, family, we have no option but to be great, right? Because even through Jim Crow, our people were still building businesses and being entrepreneurs, even though they destroyed town, whether it be by fire, bombing, or even flooding some of our towns. I've showed you guys here in probably the past month of all the other Black Wall Streets. I showed you guys how Amber Ruffin on her channel showed all the black towns that was created into lakes. Even Central Park was a black town. So family, first of all, I just want to let all you guys know that you are great. Regardless of what we're going through, we are great, but we need to continue to grow. We need to continue to keep trying to do better in life, regardless of the situation. Because when our ancestors look down on us, they say, we didn't give up, so why are you? So with that being said, family, I see that I got Red Wine Entertainment. Thank you guys for moderating. Nice to see everybody in the room today. You guys have a great and wonderful evening. Happy New Year to you all. Have a good